Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the HR Asia webinar on winning the war on talent. My name is William, and I'm the publisher and editor-in-chief of HR Asia, the region's leading media brand for senior HR professionals. Thank you for joining us today, and please feel free to ask questions to any of our panelists today, and we'll try to address as many as we can within the time that we've assigned for this webinar. If you haven't done so, do subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you'll be notified of new content as they become available. With us today are three HR leaders from different industries and background, and we go from a clockwise to my right. We start from the Philippines. We have Leng Ombao, Branding and Talent Acquisition Senior Manager of RingCentral Philippines. And beneath her, we have from Taiwan, we have Esther Liao, HR Director of AIA Taiwan. And last but not least, right below me on your screen, from Indonesia, we have Mohammad Isdwiarto. I hope I got it right, Pak Eddie. Correct. Director of Pegadaian, Persero, Indonesia. Thank you to all three panelists for setting aside time for this webinar today. It looks like all of us are in the office except Leng, who is still working from home. So before we begin, maybe ask for all the audience who are already in the room right now a simple question so we can get to know you a bit better. Would you type in the comments section, if you may, which market or country that you're tuning in from? So if you are from Singapore, please type SG. If you're Malaysia, type MY. If you're from Taiwan, TW, Indonesia, ID, Philippines, PH, and so on, so that we know where you are coming from. Now, if the first and the second industrial revolutions are powered by products and processes, the third and fourth industrial revolution is certainly one defined by people and purpose. If you look at how the current pandemic has played out, it is very clear that the greatest casualty and also the greatest beneficiary are our talents, and more importantly, the way we look at talent. Where do we find them? What are their aspirations? What do we do to keep them happy? And how do we manage, or if you prefer the word, facilitate their respective performance? So let me begin with the first question for our panelists. Tell us a little bit about your organization and how has the pandemic affected your operations? We shall start on a clockwise basis. So we go with Leng first.
Yes. Good day to everyone. Thanks for inviting me over. So again, I'm Leng. I'm part of RingCentral. So RingCentral is a cloud-based telecommunications company. So we're number one in cloud communications worldwide, and we have an office here in Manila. Our headquarters is in California. In Manila, we're about 2,000 employees doing technology, also sales and customer service. So we're on our 11th year in Manila. So how it affected us, so I think middle of March was when the time that in Manila, it was declared that we are going on a community quarantine. So a lot of the companies here converted everything to work from home. So for us, for RingCentral, it was quite easy to transition because we have the technology. Our main product is really made for collaboration anywhere. So even until now, we're still work from home. So I think from just a few days, we're already 100% work from home. But definitely HR-wise, we had to look at a lot of processes that we have to quickly convert into online or virtual. So I think on the first 2 weeks, the busiest people around, maybe not just in Manila, are your HR professionals. So yeah, that's how it really affected us.
Thank you, Leng. Thanks for letting us know a bit about yourself. Now we go to Esther. Esther, let us know about yourself, your organization, and how has the pandemic affected you?
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Esther from AIA. AIA is the #1 insurance company in Asia. However, AIA Taiwan is the small branch in Taiwan. Reason why that in Taiwan, the insurance company is a very mature market. All the key players are local players. They are belongs to financial holding companies. So AIA Taiwan is actually work very hard in Taiwan. And regarding the company size, the staff size is around 700 staff. 50 of the staff are telemarketers, and 50 staff are support function and the channel management staff. Regarding pandemic situation of Taiwan, I feel that we are lucky that we learned from the past experience of SARS, so we alert and we had the awareness in the very beginning. So we stopped the travelers from China to Taiwan very soon, and also to the Chinese New Year, we start the measurement in the office. So we have very solid control in the measurement in the Taiwan whole island. So the situation within island is very good, and we currently also promotion local tour to promote the local business, and we have some incentive coupon for the citizen to spend, to go out to spend. So that's the Taiwan situation.
All right, very interesting. Now, last but not least, Pak Eddie from Indonesia. Of course, those of us from Malaysia, Indonesia, and maybe Singapore will understand what Pegadaian means. Of course, many others, that's all. What does your company do and so on?
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. For Esther Asia, also thank you for inviting me over. Okay, PT Pegadaian is quite one of very few pawnbroking financial company. So we are literally the biggest pawnbroking business in the world, because in many countries, pawnbroking is mostly done in a small house or as a small local enterprise, something like that. But we are nationwide pawnbroking business network. We have a network of around more than 4,000 outlets across Indonesia. Yeah. And like I said, literally, we are the biggest pawnbroking company in the world, again, because of no other pawnbroking companies elsewhere. Okay, we have 30,000 employees altogether, and until 2016, we operated in a monopolistic market, meaning that no company was allowed to have business in the pawnbroking business. And since 2016, mid of 2016, the market or the pawnbroking market is deregulated. So now we are operating in a competitive environment, competitive market. And starting 2019, we embarked into our transformation journey, which expected in 5 years, we will almost 3 times, we expected to become 3 times bigger than what we are at the beginning of 2019. So a lot of initiatives has been going on. And I think the most challenging ones is because coming from state-owned, we are a state-owned enterprise, one of the more than 100 state-owned enterprises in Indonesia. Yeah? One of the biggest challenge is in moving from monopolistic industry into an open market industry, because all the mindset, the cultures is way totally different. And being a monopolistic company, then basically what we did was making sure that everything is run properly. So the shifting in the mindset of becoming proactive, more active, proactive, competitive, etc., is very challenging, but I do enjoy the whole transitions process. And I happen to also manage the corporate culture divisions. We have one dedicated corporate culture divisions. Okay, on the pandemic, actually, as we cater mostly the grassroots, the micro and small enterprises. So we lend money to them in exchange of a pound items. It could be jewelry, it could be, I don't know, it will be handphones, electronics, it could be cars, etc. So we lend them the money. So actually, well, what I can say is that our business was not much affected. It is affected, but not much, because we are really grassroots, and people one way or another, they manage to find their ways to earn their living. So from business point of view, thanks God, we are not so much affected. But on the culture itself, I think we even have some blessings. I mean, I come from the pandemic, because technology was not our forte actually, and one of our transformation goals is to move out from totally from 90% pawnbroking business into digital lending and micro lending, meaning so not anymore in the pawnbroking. And going into technology, digital lending needs a lot of mind shifts, yeah. And with the pandemic, now we are used to work with the Zoom, with the remote way of working, etc. So actually, we got some blessing from the pandemic, albeit yes, we suffer from some, because we still operate almost all of our outlets. So we have to take precautionary measures for our people in the service area. I mean, like servicing our customers. So, and some people are infected, etc. But thanks God, casualties is quite minimal. So I think that's by and large, William.
All right, that's very good. I realize that all three of the panelists operate services that we will say essential, isn't it? We have financial services, we have insurance, and of course, then we have the technology and
yes,
and the communication sector. So thank you also for your service during this COVID-19 period. So we'll now go straight to the topic of the day, which is on the war on talent. Now, some would say that because of the pandemic, the ground has really shifted rapidly from an employee market to an employer market. Now, I wouldn't know whether that's true. You tell us. So my next question for the panelists is this. What do you think are the effects of this COVID-19 pandemic has on the talent market? What are the effects of this COVID-19 pandemic on the talent market? Has it shrunk? Has it grown? Has it changed? Has candidates become more careful and more likely to stay where they are? So again, we start on a clockwise basis, starting with Leng.
I think of course the most apparent change we've seen is really in the process. So unlike before, wherein people can, like here in Manila, people would walk in and do the interviews. So now everything needs to be virtual. So we have been doing those already. Like you have your video interviews, online assessment, but it's not like done for all. It's depends on the situation. But now 100% we have to do it. So I think the quick change is that our applicants or our talent pool need to be mindful that when you do your video conferencing, it's still a formal interview. We need to make sure everything is ready and works properly well. Another thing is onboarding. So when you, for example, successfully get the role, of course, now it's how do you onboard, for example, new employees when we are still on the lockdown or we're still in quarantine. So, of course, in the company side, we take care of all of the logistics of doing that. But on the talent side, since a lot will be experiencing it for the first time, so that it takes a lot of adjustment as well. Another thing that's big is that, for example, since in terms of what's happening, we don't know up to when it's going to be safe, and it will be 100% where we can go back to the office. So work from home type of employment, I think is going to stick around for a long time. And the question is the talent behaviorally and physically ready for work from home? A lot of people, maybe in the past, they get to say, the working ones would say, like, I really want to work from home. But now that we're doing it every day, you have certain realizations. Like, there are things that you miss. There's certain like interaction within the office, or kind of routine that you're used to, that now we have to change it, slowly change it, and for us to be able to be ready for a work from home situation. One thing that I've noted, that's been part of conversations already of hiring managers, is in terms of a requirement, in terms of a focus of how independent a talent is. Unlike before, it's not something that is really that takes so much conversation during definition of a hiring profile. Now I think there's more conversation in that, like, how independent is a talent? Can you trust that the talent will be able to be productive, even if they're working from home? There's so many distraction. It's so easy to you just do something else. So I think those are the biggest items that we had to quickly adjust to, that's brought about by this pandemic.
It's very interesting. Thanks, Leng. Of course, it's very interesting to realize that, of course, RingCentral itself is an enabler of working from home, right? Your entire services, your products actually focus on that. So do you think it will come a day when RingCentral basically, removes all offices and everybody just from home? Will that happen anytime soon? Like working from home perpetually?
Yes. Actually, there are studies already, even in the America and the Europe, about talking about, work flexibility. Like, you have an option to work from home, or you choose to work in the office certain days of the week. Or also you have the idea of co-working spaces, some places that are close to home, so it makes it more convenient, and we see that people get to be more productive. So it's already predicted for the future. But what this pandemic has done is that it's just fast tracked everything. So now you have companies having this conversation more seriously. Maybe in the past they were looking at, maybe it's going to happen like 3 to 5 years. But now, because of the pandemic, it's really an option for everyone.
Okay, very interesting. Now, Esther, what about you? What do you think how has the pandemic affected the talent market? Not necessarily in Taiwan, but let us know how it is in Taiwan, but also the rest of the market.
Well, I'm thinking that during the pandemic period of time, I found that the speed of recruitment does not slow. Then the number of the new recruit remain almost the same status. So I cannot see any downtrend on the employment of the company regarding in the pandemic situation. What surprised me was that I found that they are still talent. They can take risks to leave their organization and join an organization in pandemic situation. I think that's the lesson that I discover in this kind of situation. And so I'm not want to share regarding the administration or the logistic change regarding the pandemic situation. But I do find that there's a trend will continue impact our life in the organization. For example, I find that the talent of technology, digitalization, and the analytics, the talent are very quick equal for every company. So this kind of talent will be insufficient for us. So we will have talent war on the technology staff and professional. And that's worrying me because from my understanding of my industry that we do not look for the very high caliber of technology staff, but right now we need because we need to catch up the trend. That's the first observation I found. The second one is regarding the future organization. The traditional hierarchy organization form will disappear because everyone works in a team, in a kind of team state. They don't need to be in the office, so the management will change. So the new form of organization arrangement will become a new challenge for us. So that's my observation regarding the pandemic situation and which will impact our future.
Thank you, Esther. So like you, we have also gone through the SARS pandemic 17 years ago. And I think like you, we have also seen a huge difference between then and now. 17 years ago, during the SARS period, right after that, we see a stop of employment, right? Companies stop hiring. And nobody want to leave their job because they're fearful of being not able to secure the next job and so on. But this time around, things doesn't look the same way at all. Perhaps it is because of the lessons they learned from SARS that companies have become more agile and better at managing their talent pipeline. I think that could be one reason. So we can discuss that a little bit more later. We now give a bit of time to Eddie to actually speak a bit about the pandemic and how you feel it has changed the talent market.
Okay, first of all, in our transformations plan, actually, we planned, not anymore, hopefully not. We plan to add the number of workforce, okay? I mean, like in the next 5 years. So before the pandemic, actually, we have 3 types of recruitment. We call it the mass hiring. This is mostly for the management trainee because we like to, recruit the fresh graduates or first jobber, millennials to replace the natural attritions. We have around 250, 300 attritions every year. So we backfill them through the mass hiring. This is for the management trainee. Second is what we call the general hiring. This is also to backfill the attritions. This comes mostly in the operations, in the outlets. Yeah, just for your information, 90% of our workforce work in the outlets, in the surface area. Only less than 10% actually works in the office, like as a supporting functions. And then the third one is what we call the pro-hiring. The pro-hiring is needed because, as I said earlier, we now embark on the digital lending and micro-lending, something which is not our core expertise. Okay, on the mass hiring, we stopped the recruitment. We recruited around around 200, more than 200 management trainee every year. It's been in the last 1.5 years, we recruited that many, but this year we recruited 110 trainees. But then for the second batch, which is supposed to start in August, we postponed it because of the pandemic somehow. And then on the general hiring, we still recruit some people across Indonesia. Mostly this is for an entry level. For the general hiring, actually, we do not see much difference between before or during the pandemic. Reason is because outside Java, especially, like across Indonesia, in the in many areas across Indonesia, the stock of, the supply of talent is actually quite many, and we do not see much difference between before and during, because mostly they are entry level and staff level, so it's quite simple. a very basic employees. And then the third one is what we call the pro hiring. This is, we split it into what's so-called the general hiring. There are some areas which we like to recruit, which we do not have the capabilities internally. For example, we do not have the SRBP, the HR business partner, for example. This is a new functions we introduced in Pegadaian just the last 1 year. So we need to recruit people from outside to start educating, to start teaching the internal persons how to do it. But that was into general hiring. And then the specialist hiring. This is mostly in IT, big data, things like that. On the general hiring, general pro hiring, well, I heard, like Esther mentions, that many talents prefer to stay in their current jobs because they like to secure their positions. But just this morning, I interviewed some candidates, and all of them actually still work in other companies. So I don't know. I heard that that news, but the one that I experienced is not that. It's not like that. One thing for sure, many industries in Indonesia are affected very much. The leisure, hospitality, etc. So. In general, talents are abundant, but in the industry that we are not in the FSI, the financial service industry, well, we do not feel much, increase in the supply. Now on the specialists, Pegadaian was not famous about our digital savviness. In the last 2 to 3 years when we started the transformation. So finding a talent in IT in IT sector is difficult. Plus, if we found one, then they do not want to work for Pegadaian because Pegadaian is not the employers of choice. With the time, we get more and more preferred by the job seeker or by the talents, but yet for those specialists, it is still very hard. Yeah, so I think this happen everywhere. Yeah, big data, digital, programmer, is still very hard. Out of 10 that we offer, this is our empirical observations, only 5 would like to sign up. And in the next 3 months, only 2 remain with us. So last year, we recruited a fresh graduate, and then we developed them as an IT specialist. But this year, we expected to find more talents outside especially on the IT industry, but it seems that that's not the case yet. So yes, on the general pro hiring, there are more talents, but if we are looking for a real talent, then it is still a struggle for us. I think that's all.
Thank you, Eddie. So I think all the panelists can agree that pandemic or no pandemic, the war on talent is still very much ongoing, especially, of course, for the specialist position, like Esther mentioned, for the data analysts, or in Eddie's term, the pro hiring, right? So the war on talent is still very much active in the sense. In fact, in my previous career as a head of marketing, we have a mantra that we wholeheartedly believe in, and that is the best way to sell is to make it easy for the customers to buy. So if we translate it into recruitment, that could possibly mean the best way to hire is to maybe make it easy for talents to approach you. So I just want to go around the panelists one more round and see if, and ask you this question. What are you doing, or what can we all be doing to attract the best candidates? What kind of strategy you think that we can employ given the pandemic, given this shortage of specialist positions and candidates? What can we all do to attract the candidates that we want? So to shake the structure a little bit, we start counterclockwise this time with Eddie first, and then we go to Esther, and then we go to Leng. So Eddie, what can we do?
I think, like I said, We came from a traditional pawnbroking business, monopolistic, and seen as an old-fashioned company. So actually, we have started our effort to brand our company already in the last 2 years. Yeah. So we went to the campus. We organized some recruitment. We organize some some open classes, something like that, and it continues until now. And as the pandemic comes, we instead of physical, we have also the virtual. We are quite helped by the fact that in the last 2 to 3 years, Pegadaian business really grew well until now, thanks God. And thanks God, we won several awards of, among others, the preferred, best employers last year with ESR Asia as well. On the digital area, we also won some national awards. So we use all the means possible, social media, the network of our employees. We have 30,000 employees to brand. To sell our company. And actually, my personal goal is to become Asia's one of the Asia's employers of choice in the next 3 years. There are several Indonesian companies which are in the top 50, and knock on the wood, we aim to be in their league as well. So that's, I think, what we have done. And lastly, it is now ongoing. We also have some webinar for the fresh graduate and for the first jobber around different topics, and the viewership is quite good. So I think that's what we try to attract the best candidates from the talents. I have to admit that it is still far from what we expect, but we see some tractions towards it. Thank you.
I'm impressed with some of the work that you're doing, Eddie, even to the extent of doing webinar for prospective candidates. So that's, of course, the new normal in recruitment. What about you, Esther? What can we do, in terms of getting the talents that we want?
Okay, thank you. Similar with Eddie saying that to have the Best Employer Award, I think is a must thing we need to do. That it will make our company voice internally and externally. For internally, that employee will feel proud, part of the company. Externally, that the other place will know that this is a good company name, AIA. The second one is regarding I will have sponsor headhunter give me a regular update on the market intelligence. So I will know from time to time, know the talent situation in the Taiwan market. The third one is regarding we have a robust process to have the organizational people review. So during the annually organization people review process, we can review our internal talent, as well as we will get some names from the external candidate. And once we have the external names in our pocket, we will start to make contact and making friendship, share information, and until the mature time come in there my vacancies, or we might know that the external candidate have a mind to have some kind of changes, then we can match if it's a good timing to bring in the already external talents we know. So I think that's the tactics we are now to attract the talent in the market.
Thank you, Esther. I'm sure 20 years ago is a lot easier, right? It was just put up an advertisement on newspaper and you get hundreds of candidates to screen through. Now people are talking about omni-channel, not only newspaper, and in fact, you know, even by newspaper, you probably don't get any candidate. You have job board, LinkedIn, and so many other ways to just get candidates. Leng, what about you? Your input on how the pandemic has possibly changed the recruitment, and what can we all do to be more effective in that?
I think for the Philippines, because of the pandemic, we've seen an increase on the usage, digital usage or consumption of everyone. Maybe not just for employment, but almost like everybody's at home, so their usage of the internet just skyrocketed. So on the marketing standpoint of attracting a talent, now we review if like, do we still do traditional out of home media now that nobody's going out? The billboards are are not up anymore. So a lot of the initiatives are really going digital. Now the war on digital becomes a war on content. It's not about like how much money you have, but I think what I've observed on the employer branding side is that it's really about what can you offer, what's the culture of your company. More and more, I think, with interviewing millennials, I get surprised that the question isn't much about compensation. Of course, compensation is still important, but more and more I get to hear questions about what's your culture, what can my future be in your company. And even now during the pandemic, it's the same questions. Now I think the only difference now, especially the market here is quite competitive, especially on the IT sector, is who gives a better recruiting experience. So now that you're in the middle of a pandemic, it's not safe to go out yet. How can I do all the steps of recruitment and ace the interview and stuff with it being smooth as a process, and I enjoy my relationship with whoever is the recruiter of the company. So it actually stresses a lot on the experience, the applicant experience. Also, what I've seen now, of course, you have your job portals, and you can always, activate ads there. But what's working, I think, especially for the IT sector, are referrals. Meaning, if you know someone, or for example, for me as a recruiter, if I've hired a really good talent, everybody loves this talent. If I ask this person and he likes our culture and he promotes it to his friends, then most likely I will find somebody as good as him within his network. It makes a recruiter's life easier, because the downside of the digital side of doing things like your job portal is that sometimes for one position you get maybe like hundreds, thousands of applications. So the question now for recruiters is, how do I filter out? How do I make use of my time more wisely to be able to find the right candidate? So again, I think also based from what Eddie mentioned, you have your volume type of hiring, and then you have your very niche type of hiring. So you do different strategies for those, but I think right now our direction is really going to more digital. But on the digital space, I think the focus should also be still on experience. Like, always put the applicant's experience first. So from there, you could identify what are the best tools out there, what are the best technologies that makes it easy for your applicants and your hiring group to connect.
Thank you, Ling. Thank you also mentioning about the questions that has also changed. With the recruit, when people used to ask what is a salary and so on, question has changed so much. So I always like to think of it as the 4P. that 30 years ago, people ask about your product, right? What does your company sell? And then 20 years ago, they asked the questions of process. How do you do it? And 10 years ago, they asked the questions of people, right? Who else is working along with me? And today, as you have correctly pointed out, people ask the question of the last P, which is the purpose. What does your company stand for? What does it represent? And how would my values be aligned with the company's value? I think that is also shifting, and that makes recruitment, talent management such a far more interesting and challenging job for all of us, continuously learning new things. We shall now open to the audience who has actually kindly put in a lot of comments in the comment section. I think the panelists can also look at the comment section as well. We have Marshall Ari Tonang who said, hello. Marshall, you have you're the first one to actually comment. Congratulations. We have Mokhtar Reza Sukifa from Indonesia. Hello. We have people from Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines. I see some from Vietnam earlier, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Thailand. We do have one question from Reza Sufika, I assume from Indonesia. What kind of shifting corporate culture in this pandemic situation? So the question is more on corporate culture. How has that shifted, if at all? So I'll address this to Eddie, because Eddie, you mentioned that one of your action corporate culture.
Challenge.
I'd like to take this question. Right.
Okay. Shall I respond? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Reza. I think I see two things here in the culture, because I group it into three, actually, our challenges: capabilities, culture, and technology. I put technology also under the culture, because somehow it has something to do with the culture, how we work. On the culture, as per how we move from monopolistic, from waiting passive into active, and then later proactive, I do not see much. I mean, like the result of this pandemic does not really affect that kind of cultural area, yeah, because for example, we now embark on a work group tools, yeah, meaning that we break down all the activities in all the initiatives into small activities and assign the activities to some people. And from my observations, even though we use the technology, but the eagerness to complete the task, the initiative to ask questions if something happened, the initiative to raise issues doesn't really change with the pandemic. But yes, with the pandemic, I do not think that we could implement these tools this quickly in the past, because we just moved. We use this, if maybe anyone familiar with the Jira tools, okay? This is actually more used in our TI, Technological Informations Department, and now we move them to the supporting functions, for example, to HR as well. And we can easily implement it, because people now get used to the technology. But technologies are only tools. The mentality, the mindset that I own this job and I'm responsible for this job. If anything happened, I raise my hands, I ask support, etc. To be honest, needs to be honed, to be intensively honed into the directions. So again, to answer the questions, pandemics help us a lot. We call it Chief Technology Officer. Okay? It helps us a lot in the technology adoptions, but other cultural issues or other cultural aspects still needs to be changed and reinforced. I think that's my question. That's my answer. Sorry.
Right. Thank you, Eddie. So we have a next question from Ren Buluran. I hope I got your name right. What should companies be very mindful about in acquiring and hiring talents during this pandemic? I will this question to Leng. So Leng, the question is again, what should companies be mindful of in hiring people during this period?
I think, well, first and foremost, in the employment side of things, I think the focus would still be about the skills. I mean, it would still need to be about the fit. Like, is this person a fit for this role? Will this person be happy in that role? But because of the added layer of the pandemic, I think now the care side of things comes in. So, for example, really on recruiters checking, would this person be able to, because I remember, for example, maybe 10 years ago, when I was interviewing candidates, the location of where they live didn't matter. People can move around, but now with the pandemic, I think it now becomes a question of, will you be comfortable should, in case we now open up and we go back to the office, or your current situation right now, are you work from home ready? So especially for us, because it's like turning to be our new norm. So I think those are the things that we need to consider, but still, the focus would, I think, still be on the talent. So, for example, if you ask me, if you filter out applications, would you filter it out based on who's work from home capable? Not necessarily. I still would go for the skills, because that's the primary reason why we do recruiting. There are instances, for example, in my case, we have very niche roles, IT roles, wherein the company would find ways to be able to logistically help as long as we find the right talent.
So to summarize, nothing really has changed. You recruit based on what you require, but of course, then you be mindful of the health aspect because of the pandemic, the distance to work, and of course, the workplace itself. We have one question. I think I would want to direct this to Esther, and the question is from Flynn Puba, and he asked, "How should company react to candidate who expect high salary expectation during this pandemic?" I think this is a question common even before without pandemic. There will be candidates who expect high salary. So we'll let Esther take that on.
Okay.
Esther, yeah.
This is a good question. Okay. Everyone would like to high pay. Okay. What I would like to answer is that, of course, money is important to everyone's life, because we need have to money to sustain our life. But money is not automatic that we ask, then it comes. Money is that we contribute and we get the return as reward. So during the interview, I would suggest candidates to think about regarding the total income of a person. It includes the basic salary and the variable salary. Then it's good. It's good for me to experience a dramatic change regarding the pay structure change 3 years ago. In Asian world, that we used to have a basic salary plus a guarantee bonus. In Taiwan, many companies are like that. So it's very difficult for us to differentiate the best performer can get more than the general performer. So 3 years ago, I changed the pay structure and increased the so-called performance bonus. So the increase of the performance bonus are double of the past the general bonus. So the internal staff, they experience the change and they found that the business performance is really go better and better. For example, during the pandemic situation in Taiwan, the first half, the business, the company, the insurance industry lowers 30%. However, AIA Taiwan grow for 50%. That means in the year end, our staff will get a very high performance bonus. So I will encourage the candidate who would to join AIA. They have a broad view on the compensation. I can guarantee a good performer, they can get a very good yearly income rather than a fixed salary.
Thank you, Esther. So look at the overall income, not just look at the salary. Of course, there are many other aspects to look into beyond salary as well.
Yes.
And the next question is about attrition and the pandemic. This is, of course, very important for all of us in HR. We're already feeling the pressure, of the new normal, of the changes, of the transition, of this totally unexpected, never experienced before pandemic in our life. Many of us are really stretched. So we can imagine the amount of stress and pressure that the rest of our teammate must be facing at the same time. So naturally, I suppose some of them might just throw in the white flag and say, look, I give up, and causes attrition. So I just want to go around one round. Are we seeing a higher attrition rate during the pandemic, or it has been stable and well contained? What do you say, Leng?
I think in terms of your existing workforce, meaning within your company, I'm not too sure yet of the ending number, but based from what I'm seeing, there's not much change. It's just your natural organic attrition. Or there might be instances where people are really actually willing to stay longer. Maybe the ones that we were originally thinking of moving to another company, suddenly they put their exploratory things on hold because they're not sure of the next steps. But the kind of attrition that I think hits us more now is actually your onboarding attrition. Meaning, if, for example, I hire folks during the quarantine or I hire them virtually, so now I have to have them onboarded, so they do training virtually. And since it's a new norm, it's very new because, for example, when back in school, we do face-to-face training. We have teachers teaching us face-to-face. Only a portion is online. So same goes with training right now. Everything needs to be done virtually. So there might be, and in some cases, because the very critical part is, I think, your first 90 days. That's the make or break of every new hire. And during your 90 days, a lot of times, what plays a big role is like when you are in the office, you have friends, you have the support system of like other new hires or your bosses who gets to say, that's fine, let's have a chat later or let's have coffee later. I'm going to teach you some more tricks and stuff. So those things are hard to transition to a virtual kind of training. And I think it also puts so much pressure to our training professionals because suddenly, the training module, how do you make sure they're engaged? How do you sustain the attention span for a millennial to be able to sustain their attention span? Like imagine having them do a 4-hour straight virtual training. So it can really be very difficult. So we've been seeing some attrition on that area that we haven't really seen in the past. And I think that's the area wherein we really have to focus right now in terms of studying more the behavior and what can be helpful to make it easier for people to transition.
Right. Perhaps we should use the US court system, right? We send court martial after them, lock them up, so that they don't run away after they've signed up. to work for you. But seriously, Leng, that was a very good point. Attrition, of course, can happen because of the current situation. What about you, Esther? Do you find attrition has gone up during this period?
I find that the attrition will be lower during this period, and also the company status is different from the past years. For example, during past 3 years, our turnover rate lower from 20% to 14% to 9% last year. So I think this year the attrition rate will even lower than 9%. One of the reasons is because I just shared that the performance is very good, so the year-end bonus will be very high. So we already communicate to staff that our business status, and I think employee will stay and work together to get a record high bonus this year.
So again, the key here is communication, right? Ensuring that they know. So we don't tell them when we announce a bonus, we tell them way ahead so that they're aware of it. And plan that into the consideration. What about you, Pak Eddie? Are you seeing any major changes in Indonesia?
First, within our company, actually, traditionally, our attrition is quite low. I mean, like around 2%, 2.5%. And then the last 1 year, actually, attrition rates slightly go up, especially coming from the, resignations. Normally in the past, that's mostly from natural attritions. People retire or because of some dismissal, because of fraud, etc. But then the last 1 year, it increases slightly. And I see, similar to Esther actually, this year, in the second quarter, there is still 1 or 2 resignation requests which we granted. But it's slightly lower than what we had last year. In other companies, I know of, because if they start retrenching, then that would be costly. So what I have seen, the phenomena, there is, I do not have any data on this, but I heard from my friends, from my networks, that most of them, they start reducing the salary, etc., but not really retrenching. Retrenching is not attrition, but I think people need some security. That's what I can say, what happened in Indonesia.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. We have a lot more questions. I'm not sure whether we have enough time to answer all of them, but we try our best. Next we have a question from Kiet Kusuma, who asks, is it important to rethink talent management after COVID-19 for business? This is a very broad topic, so I'll just zoom it down to the topic of performance management. How do you manage performance, as after the COVID-19? So we put this to Pak Eddie, right? Performance management, performance review. How do you look into it after the COVID-19?
Okay, I think I agree with what Leng mentions earlier. That before I talk about the performance management, first is that we need more people who can work independently. Self-driven, and then with that, it is becoming more important because we really have to measure their outputs instead of whether they are present or not. And going forward, I think performance management become more and more important, and perhaps we shift more from leading indicator, activity-based, into more lagging indicator, more outcome. And I think technology can help us into this. And with this pandemic, and which accelerates the acceptance, the adoptions of technology, I think we will use technology, and we will have more real-time performance management and centers around output rather than process. I think that's how I see it in Indonesia, and also happen in our company.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, we have one question specifically addressed to Esther. So we'll take this one before we move on. So the question for Esther is, how do you maintain your corporate branding during this pandemic? Or rather, before you answer that, Esther, I'll just read through the rest of the question first. So Diane Natalia asked, how do you maintain your corporate branding during the pandemic? We have Tuan Nguyen from Vietnam, hello. Jessica Cheng, who says she'll be applying for the HR Award this year. And then Get Kusuma, who said he's sure Pegadaian will be global as soon as possible. I assume Get must be from Pegadaian, right? So we have Benzani, who asked a question for Leng, how to make the talent believe that working in a company is the best choice for him or her. We have Randi Sris Tibayan, who asked what adjustments are being made to continue training and development during this time of COVID-19. We have Mulyono, who asked Eddie, how is your company strategy developing human capital talent to provide the best services to the community during this pandemic? That's actually a very good question, but I suspect we don't have enough time to answer that at length. Then Iswara Maharani, who asked a question, during the pandemic, job vacancies limited, while number of job seekers has increased. Any suggestion for fresh graduate and professional to win the war on talent? This one I can answer. Iswara, you're doing the right thing now. You are listening into how HR directors think. So that will help a lot in your job seeking. All the best on that. And then we have Wawang Wibowo, who say hello from Wawang Arya Nanda, HR practitioner from Central Java. So we have a lot of questions. But to summarize, I would like to just bring us back to the question of employer branding. But Eddie bring it out a little bit just now earlier. So did Esther, so did Leng. And in fact, I noticed that, of course, all three of you are actually past recipients of the HR Asia Best Companies to Work For in Asia. I think last year or the year before. So how do you think, and why do you think it is important to continue with employer branding moving forward, especially in this war on talent? Shall we start with Eddie again from Pegadaian?
Okay, I think for us, especially as an SOA, which is just coming up from the second tier, trying to go up to the first tier, it is very important that we become employers of choice, and I think that's one. And second, I think employers branding also, we like to make sure that our value propositions is the same as our candidates, because we cater for mass market, grassroots. Our job is trying to give values for the grassroots. Then it's not for everyone. So I think that's the importance of the employers branding, I think.
Thank you. This is also to Esther, the same question. In fact, this was the exact question that Dian was asking you just now. How do you maintain your corporate and employer branding, I assume, during this pandemic? So again, on the issue of employer branding, why do you think it's important during this period?
Okay, thank you. I think keeping the corporate employer branding is no matter in which season, the normal one or in under a pandemic. What I think that a strong employee value proposition, as AD just mentioned, that is very important. But however, the timing to bring in the employee value proposition is also critical. If you have nothing happen in the company and you only mention that we have an employee value proposition, I think it's no use. You need to have a company strategy coming out, then the employee value proposition bringing in, so then it will be a perfect combination to the your employee value proposition live in staff mind. So during the strategy reframe, then we bring in our employee value proposition in our internal staff. And I also think that regarding internal and external, then I will focus on internal staff first before external, because we need internal staff to say the good words for the company to their friends, to their relatives, rather than the employee unhappy leaving the company and say bad words to the company. So even we have a good social media, then the candidate won't believe that you are so good because your own staff leave your company and say bad words to you. So I think to focus on the communication and to let the internal staff feel that we really care about them, I think is matters. And I think we have a very strong EVP proposition, which we call that we wish every employee bring their ambition to their life. So their ambition to be a good employee, their ambition to be a good manager, their ambition to a good father, a good mother. They can all live their ambition in their daily life. So I think this kind of strong EVP help us have a very good corporate branding. That's my sharing.
Thank you, Esther. So having a strong EVP is very important, but having a strong EVP alone is not enough. You also need to have third-party endorsement of it, as well as to have strategies built around when and how you call those EVP. As Esther has mentioned, you keep talking about it on a day-to-day basis. After a while, it becomes very routine, very monotonous, and people may no longer believe it as much. You have to bring it spark once in a while, if I hear you correctly, Esther, so that people continue to believe in your EVP, especially as it is practiced within your organization. Thank you for a very interesting insight, Esther. And last but not least, Leng, of course, you, before going into HR, is a marketing professional as well. So this would be a very interesting question to you. How do you see employer branding and why is it important?
Yes. So I've been doing marketing and recruiting for about 15 years, I think. And how I usually say it in terms of employer branding, it's like matching. It's like finding a good marriage between an applicant or a candidate and an employer. So sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works. But we just have to, find ways to do it. So I agree with what Esther mentioned, that a lot of times we focus on external branding, we forget the internal branding. When in fact, your EVP should really be coming from the inside, from knowing exactly what are the values of your company. Because I think that's from where you will be able to identify what sets you apart from your competitors. It's not as to who's the loudest, who has the biggest share of voice, or who has more money to spend on advertising, but it's really finding that sweet spot of being able to give out your value proposition to the right target audience. And in my case, I think based also from what you mentioned a while ago, William, in terms of the trend on what the talent is looking for, and now they're really looking for purpose, which is such a big word, right? So it becomes harder now for employers to be able to be more strategic in terms of coming up with a strategy, a communication plan that really talks about the purpose of the company and why joining us will be the perfect marriage in terms of employment. So I think that's really the main challenge of doing employer branding right now. Whenever I used to work for other industries like FMCG and pharmaceutical, and I would usually say, like, it's easy to sell or to market impulse items. It's easy to sell medication or drugs, but the hardest thing for me to sell, which is very challenging, and maybe the reason why I've been doing it for 15 years now, is because selling a job, selling a career is really one of the most difficult things to do, because you are affecting the future of a person. And the best HR professionals would be the ones who really care about finding the perfect partnership between the candidate and an employer.
We lost William, I'm afraid.
Oh, okay. I thought I was like.
We lose William.
All right, have I lost? Don't worry. So there's about all the time that we have. So we'll just go one round very quickly. Everybody just have a last word on your thoughts on today's topic, if any, and then we wrap up, and that's it for the day. So again, we go one round. So this time we go with Leng, and then we go to Esther, and then go to Eddie. So Leng, last words, very briefly.
I think thank you very much for
Like
this.
anything else? Yes.
Thank you very much for this topic. I think it's a very very interesting discussion. I think for the talents out there, I know the what's the situation is, not the most positive, but what it has brought us is more time. Okay, and I think it's a perfect opportunity to learn new skills, to pick up hobbies, other interests. There are probably a lot of tools, free learning tutorials you could find online. So please take the time, take the opportunity, because for all you know, the next skill that you will be getting under this pandemic is gonna set your future career.
Thank you, Leng. What about you, Esther? Any last words?
I appreciate the opportunity to join the panel speaker today. Appreciate HR Asia for this kind of arrangement. I personally feel happy join here and have the opportunity to exchange ideas among us. I think it's a learning environment everywhere that we can connect and we can continue keep contact each other in the future, and you can find my name in the LinkedIn, and we can contact, and we can continue to exchange our ideas and the information in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. We have also learned tremendously from you as well. Last but not least, Pak Eddie from Pegadaian, any last comments or advice for the audience today?
Yeah, thank you for the invitations to the SR Asia. Thank you for your participation for all the audiences. I think we as a company, either whether there's a pandemic or not, we have to be able to allure, to attract the best talents, meaning that we have to do our utmost to become the most preferred employers. And even though the numbers of supplies out there perhaps increasing, but I think we have to keep doing to excel in our branding, in selling our companies. For the talents out there, I think same as Leng, I think there are a lot of new opportunities. So if you happen to not having the right place to work, keep doing things that you like, learning things that you like, and I believe that opportunities ahead of this pandemic will be huge, and especially when you are the best in your area of skills. I think. Thank you for everyone, and see you perhaps in the LinkedIn or in other opportunities.
Right, thank you, everyone. So our apologies to all those who have asked questions. You have asked very good questions. Unfortunately, because of the time constraint that we have, we're unable to answer each of the questions individually, but I hope the session has been beneficial for all of us overall. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Asia to thank Leng, to thank Esther, and to thank Eddie for being part of today's webinar. If you agree with me that they have all done a fantastic job, please type 10 in the comment section to give them a full mark for the job well done. You have all been a fantastic audience. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to the YouTube channel to be notified of new webinars coming up. And today's recording will also be shared on our Facebook page, so feel free to share with your colleagues and friends. Once again, thank you. Terima kasih. 谢谢.
Thank you. Bye.
Keep the social distancing and stay safe.
Bye.